So this one's gonna be pretty self-indulgent because I have put a lot of thought into this and I feel like I should just share it with you because you probably will appreciate it and not too many other people will. So here's a full disclaimer. This is mostly going to be based on the fact that I wrote this very long fanfic about how Crystal Tokyo came into being. So a lot of this is going to be working within the context of what I was thinking when I was writing this for about 18 months. So about 4 months ago I got this review that was it was very well thought out and it was very good and it kind of got what I was trying to get at with the whole like politics and religion and how all of that kind of intertwined with the Sailor Moon mythos. And they made kind of a good point in that why would Serenity appoint her senshi as being advisors when that's pretty nepotistic. I don't know if that's the real word. Nepotism it's a big part in this. And I really spent a long time thinking about why exactly that would happen. I figured that canonically that would happen because otherwise they're really not going to have much to do. But then, you know, I sat down and actually thought exactly why this would happen. Something else that they mentioned was why does Sailor Moon get to become the ruler of Earth or the ruler of Japan, depending on if you're going to go in the anime or the manga. In the anime, it's pretty heavily implied that she just becomes the ruler of Japan. Whether or not eventually that encompasses the entire world is completely up to your imagination, but in the manga it's pretty heavily stated that she does become the ruler of the entire Earth. So this person was going, well, why didn't you have any democracy advocates? Because there's a pretty hefty amount of democracy in Japan today and in most nations of the world, not maybe most, but a good majority of the nations of the world. Why didn't you have any of that? Because you're really good about, you know, including, you know, the military aspect of things and like, you know, the impact of the occupation in Japan and you know, all kinds of other different things. And my initial response, my initial thought, I didn't respond, I was a little nicer about this. I had a very long response to them too. But my initial idea was, I mean, if you're not like okay with Sailor Moon becoming the eventual Empress of the Earth, then I don't even know what we're doing in the same fandom because that's canonically what happens. I just tried to put a realistic spin on things. So the biggest aspect of how this fic worked was like trying to show how Chibiusa traveling back in time actually split the timeline up. You can tell by reading this that I've watched a lot of Doctor Who by, you know, traveling in time affects things and ripple effects and butterfly effect and all kinds of other things, and then also kind of focusing on the current politics of Japan and how a nuclear apocalypse or an apocalyptic like event might affect every aspect of life, with the government still trying to work on things, plus the fact that this is taking place in a post 9/11 world and how that would all go into it, because if you think about it, the manga ended in 1997 and then by that timeline Usagi is 16 years old, so she takes the throne when she's 22, so that's in 2002. So obviously in 1997 things were, worldview was way different, and then, you know, after 9/11 happened, then other things, you know. But again, I'm just gonna put this out there. This is all my views, me, my headcanons, and how I think kind of everything pulls together. So if you're going to get mad, try not to get too mad, because again, this is my interpretations, my headcanons, my worldview, being this is all me. I bring in elements of both the anime and the manga canon, but this is all mostly me and my interpretations. Okay, we're good. It's all me. Don't get mad at me for my worldviews if they're different than yours, because that's kind of the point of being human. Again, I could probably teach like an entire semester's worth of like coursework on this, which is kind of what we're doing here with just, you know, a semester's worth of Sailor Moon. But the Japan that I think that Sailor Moon takes place in, it's very much alive with spiritual things, superstition. It's based in actual fact, like kami and the spirit world and everything associated with Shinto and nature. It's all something that we have seen in both the anime and the manga. Rei has powers that's outside of being a senshi, as do Mamoru and Hotaru. A lot of the girls' powers in their civilian forms, they bleed over from being senshi, like their sailor crystals are part of them. So those powers come out in various ways. And Mamoru might be able to, you know, be an empath and, you know, all the things that he can do because of the golden crystal, but that's never proven canonically, so it's just kind of assumed that he is also like this supremely spiritual person. And also remember that in the second arc of the manga, there was a lot of hubbub and hubris put around all of these psychics and like people divining and like divining for water and searching for things. It's all the Black Moon, but they really played into the fact that people are superstitious and people do, you know, really like these things, or at least like the idea of them and can get behind them. It's presented as something that's being just a very real, natural way of life, or at least something that's normal. Or even like saying that these people that are on TV now are very, you know, they're very famous because they're very good at what they do. So it's showing, this is where we're going on canonical fact that this, you know, supernatural ability is something that is very, very normal, that's at least to the point where, you know, you're not surprised, you're not going, oh, that's weird, why are we suddenly paying so much attention to it? So spirits and psychic ability and magic, they're all just normal things, and really the monsters are too, because really nobody bats much of an eye about it. You can see people getting freaked out by it, but they're not going, oh my god, what the heck is going on? Why are there suddenly monsters? They're just, oh, there's monsters and we've made them angry and now we're all going to die. So it stands to reason that Serenity, who has been canonically referred to as a messiah with a capital M, would come in a time of national global need, and would come in, and people who place a lot of stock in superstition would be like, well, looks like there's a goddess and she's kinda got things taken care of, so we'll just let her do this. She's got a pretty good handle on things. I mean, just think about how in our world there's a lot of myths and stories handed down all over the world about people who do, like, people who are God-touched and do great deeds and are rewarded with thrones. Like, this is not an unusual thing that, you know, people, our rulers are descended from the gods, or, you know, he was a prince or he was just a peasant, and then, you know, the lady in the lake handed him a sword and was like, you are the one true king of England. You know, there's all over the world you hear, this is not an uncommon thing. But this is modern day, you're thinking, we don't live in a time of absolute monarchy, we live in a time of democracy. And again, this is all me, but in my interpretation of the things, but something that I toyed a lot with when I was writing this was the Meiji Restoration and the American occupation of Japan, and the Americans essentially forcing the emperor to, like, revoke his god status and take a much less prominent role in the government. Coincidentally, a disproportionately large number of Japanese people are, you know, over the age of 50. So in a culture, most of Asian culture kind of places a lot of stock in deferring to an elder, respecting an elder as being, you know, they're the head of the family, we listen to them first, and then, you know, it goes in order from there. In this fictional version of Japan, I thought that it might make sense that a lot of these elders might kind of resent the idea that their emperor, their ruler, their leader was, you know, essentially forced at gunpoint almost to, you know, stand down and spread what they might think of as these lies that they are not in fact God touch, and they might have some, you know, bitterness that they would then pass on down to their families just based on the fact that another culture came in and was like, no, you're wrong, and we're going to, you know, fix it for you to make you right. And again, this is only my views. Keep in mind that I have grown up and come of age in the last 13 years, so I have seen firsthand a lot of American politics and what it does globally. So going back to Sailor Moon, a big part of Serenity coming to power also rests on her fully accepting the status that she is the savior. And for a lot of people, I know this is a very hard thing to suspend disbelief for. But canonically, while I understand that it's pretty hard to swallow that one, you know, 4'10" Japanese girl is the savior of the entire world, canonically she is the Messiah, capital M Messiah. We know that somewhere down the line a big catastrophe happens and she has to save everybody from it, and then she becomes the ruler of the earth, again in the manga, or of just Japan in the anime, but again that's debatable, it's never really mentioned. And when she does save the world, in the manga it's kind of given the impression that she just kind of retreats into her crystal palace and watches over everything from above and is this goddess figure that hands out judgments from her little crystal cloud space, and everybody worships her as such. Well, I guess worships is kind of a strong word for it. You know, everybody is, you know, respects her right to rule and whatnot. At least to the point where people might just think, okay, well, she's kind of been saving the world for a couple of years now, so let's just give her all of the power to continue doing so. And quite personally, I kind of agree with the idea that people aren't just going to be like, here you go, take all the power. It's not how it's going to work, and I didn't write it that way because that's not what I believe would happen. She was better equipped to help people than the government was, so she did everything in her power to do so. So then the people responded to that. Just because she was doing what she does, loving people and caring about them and doing what's best for them, what she believes is best for them, the people responded to that and started a revolt against the government. And I don't think that everybody would agree with that either. A lot of people might just be like, well, you know, national crisis, things happen. So what I kind of thought would happen is that since Serenity is the type of person who would want to make sure that absolutely everybody would want to be on board with her, she kind of went around after everything kind of settled down and was like kind of quelling all the riots and everything, just to make sure that everybody, like, she talked with the people, she listened to them, and she wanted to know, like, what can I do to make you be on my side, because a lot of other people want me to be on their side, and I've made a lot of deals to make you know, everybody not die, so, you know, I need you to be on my side, at least give me a chance. So in a weird way, while Serenity does take power from the old government, she is also like given it by the people, so it is kind of a weird version of democracy. She might be this magical moon goddess incarnate with goddess incarnate guardians, but she's also Serenity. She absolutely would not use her power to, you know, in any kind of abusing kind of way. She wants to use her power willingly to help the people. She also thinks that Chibiusa's mother, it's kind of mentioned in the manga, that Serenity used the power of the crystal to cleanse the world of all evil, and she sent the people who did not wish to be cleansed off to Nemesis in this banishment. And she also doesn't think of herself as Chibiusa's mother. She thinks of herself as someone who is going to become a Chibiusa's mother, but the Serenity of the 30th century is someone who's completely different, and she's trying to make different choices from her. So whether or not when Serenity is going around to get people on her side, the crystal is influencing them, that's up to the reader's imagination. But she is just trying to use the power of herself to get people on her side. So I don't know how much sense that made, but just to comment on the nepotism bit, I find it very interesting that people might think that the Senshi have absolutely no idea how they would run they'd run a government even. When you think about it, that we elect government officials in the United States sometimes that are fantastically unequipped for their roles, or at least they think that they're equipped for it, and then they step into the roles and it turns out everything's crazy. So my other thought is that the Senshi are going to be, or at least Queen Serenity is going to be in power for a very long time. So I don't really like the idea that the Senshi don't do anything other than guard her. They just kind of, I think that would be very boring, especially when you think about like Minako and Rei, who don't like being bored very easily, and I don't think that Amy would give up her dream to be a doctor, and you know, Makoto has a whole lot of dreams too, so like I feel like they would want to take some kind of role, so even if they're not comfortable with being these ministers of government, I honestly just think of them as being more middle management. They know that they're kind of ill-equipped, but they have people who know what they're doing, and they just kind of oversee it, and then would go and report to Serenity and would say like, oh yeah, this is what's going on in forestry and fishing or whatever, and then Serenity would be like, yeah, that's fun. So let's talk, let's gossip, what's going on in your life, what's happening. I don't think Serenity would take the roles very seriously, but the Senshi themselves, they would try to take on as much as they could, or at least try to understand it. Plus, again, they're going to be alive for a very, very long time, so I think that they would have a chance to learn the rules of how to operate a government, at least to, again, the best of their abilities. So I hope this made some kind of sense, that there's a lot of thought and abstract thinking that goes into like how the politics and religion and spirituality and all of that might go into the Crystal Tokyo mythos. Again, we're spinning way off into headcanon and speculation land, and this is kind of a heavy step in that direction, but we're gonna go back to some easier things next week. And next week when you see me, I will not be in this location. I'm actually moving at the end of this week when I'm filming this, and I'm also kind of not feeling too great right now, if you couldn't tell by my voice. But I'm a couple weeks ahead in where I'm filming, so the next time you see me, you will see me in my Korea apartment. So thank you for putting up with my rambling. I have no idea what I just said. Hopefully it makes sense in edits, and I will see you guys next week. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.